Oh my, are we on air? Yes? Oh, okay, sorry. I was just posting some pictures on social media. Let me finish here. Hashtag vacation, best time ever. Don't worry, people are not going to notice I'm actually working. So, welcome to today's class in Aprendo en Casa. I am teacher Jonnathan Elizondo, and it's a pleasure for me to be here with you today. We're going to continue learning about lights, cameras, action, and our theme for the day, through the lens of the documentary, where we're going to explore writing, and we're actually going to write a short paragraph describing our experiences on a documentary, okay? So before we start, remember that we need to be ready. Important in these times, wash your hands. Get a perfect spot for you to learn. It can be a table, it can be the floor, it can be in the sofa if you want, but make sure you have enough space to carry out the activities. And the materials we need for today. Since we're going to be writing, we're going to use the pencil or a pen, but I personally prefer the pencil because I can correct even better. An eraser in case we need to correct something, a pencil sharpener, and of course the notebook, preferably the English notebook. Otherwise, you can use some pieces of paper, okay? Now, before we begin, it is super important also to call everybody and tell them that class is about to start. And what about seeing the topics for today? What we're going to learn in today's class. So today we're going to write a short description of personal experiences about a documentary, and we're going to explore the writing process. Remember, we need to plan, we need to draft, we need to revise, and we need to edit our work. Those are the 4 steps for the writing process. Are you ready? I think you're not. You still need to call your family and friends. Send text messages, send WhatsApp messages, call your classmates and tell them we are about to start this adventure, okay? Now, I have 3 questions for you. My first question, what are some types of TV shows that we have been studying during these lessons? What are some of them? Do you remember? I remember some. Let's see. We studied sitcoms. Remember? Situational comedies. We also studied the news. We studied TV series. We saw also game shows and soap operas. And today, do you remember the keyword? Documentaries. So my next question is, what is a documentary? Think about that. If you think documentaries, documents. So documentaries on TV shows are basically based on recreating actual life events. And the main idea of a documentary is that we are not going to add anything that is not real. We're going to represent reality as best as possible. Now, some characteristics of a documentary. Let's look at those characteristics. A documentary needs to be compelling. It needs to have a point of view. And most important for it to be compelling, it tries us to take action. It is entertaining and it presents facts. Very, very important, okay? Now, before we go into the documentary, I have some logos for you to see. Can we see the logos? I'm sure you recognize these 4 logos that I have here. So what is this one over here? Yes? That is Facebook, right? What about that one? That is Instagram. And this one right here, the little bird, Twitter. Yes. And finally this one, that is YouTube. What do these have in common? Can you tell me? Yes, they are social media, and as we call them also, social networks. So today we're going to look at one of them in a documentary, okay? Now, as you know, social networks are relevant in our lives, but we need to be a little careful with them. So let's imagine that in high school, your teacher assigned you to watch a documentary and write a descriptive paragraph of that documentary, together with your opinion about it, okay? So now that we're ready, we're going to start looking at the whole writing process. Before we get the material for the writing process, we're going to see what a descriptive paragraph is. So we have a slide over here of a descriptive paragraph. And Can you tell me what are the things you see there? Many different icons, right? So in a descriptive paragraph, basically we appeal to the senses. We write about what we see, what we smell, what we touch, what we taste, and what we feel as well, right? Now, descriptive paragraphs have a sequence. Just as any other paragraph, it needs a structure. We need the main idea. In this sentence is where we actually write what the paragraph is about. We need supporting sentences, which are examples or extra ideas to support that main idea. And the conclusion. The conclusion can have two different ways of doing it. We can actually have a conclusion in which we restate the main idea, or a conclusion in which we leave the person with a closing thought, something that I want the people to think about, okay? Now, before we write our paragraph today, let's study also some vocabulary. Let's go to the next slide. We have here the verb lied. This verb is actually in past tense, lied. The present tense will be lie. So here from dictionary.com it says that the verb is to speak falsely or utter untruth knowingly as with intent to deceive. So it's basically to convey a false impression. And I'm pretty sure you know that little emoji over there, right? It represents someone who lied in a fairy tale. Let's go to the next slide. Social network. We have two definitions, very important, because usually we see social networks and we think about digital social networks. But look at the first definition from dictionary.com. A network of friends, colleagues, and other personal contacts. So basically, your classmates are your social network. If you work, your colleagues in the school or your colleagues in your workplace are your social network. But we also have another definition about digital technology. It's an online community of people with a common interest who use a website or other technologies to communicate. So you see, in the case of the 4 social networks we saw, those are websites. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, right? Let's look at the first definition, the next definition, sorry. The next definition is actually staged a photograph. And this is a phrase. We have a verb in the past, staged, and then a photograph. What is that? So if you see what is there surrounding the definition or the concept, we see that the person put everything into the correct place. To stage a photograph means that you put everything in a certain place and then you take the photograph. That means the photograph is not spontaneous. Let's go to the next slide. And this is pretend. What would be the past tense? Remember that we have been studying past tenses. What is the past tense of pretend? Yes, you're right, pretended. And in this case is to cause or attempt to cause to seem so. So basically to pretend is when you present an impression that it's not real, to appear falsely as to deceive, or to make believe. You might be wondering, what is make believe? You see the unicorns over there? They are make believe, they are not real. So to pretend is when you show something that is actually not real. And the last words we're going to look at today are some sequence words. We see after that, later, finally, okay? Those are when you have a sequence of events, you can put them in order by using those phrases. For example, in today's class, I can say, the teacher started by introducing the topic. After that, he showed the objectives. Later, he showed us some words. And finally, we are going to write. And we have the word for example. Remember, that is when you want to add more information. So I like different books. For example, fiction and novels. Okay? Very good. So to begin our planning part, we're going now to watch a short video. Okay? So this short video, I took it from YouTube, and the channel is called Ditch the Label, sorry. That is the channel where you can find this one. This is a short documentary or a short video about one social media. But I want to, for you to consider some questions as you watch this video. Let's look at the questions that I have for you. So the first question is, what social media does the video represent? Okay, that is number one. What social media does the video represent? Question number two, what do people do in the video? You can actually think of the actions that people carry out throughout the video. And how does it make you feel? That is to give an opinion, right? We're only going to watch 2 minutes of the video. Bear those questions in mind, and also if you want, you can write in your notebooks or in a piece of paper the actions that you see people doing over there, okay? So let's watch the video. 2 minutes, go ahead. You got a lot of details from that video. Really shocking, right? I was surprised when I saw that video because I had never thought about those situations. Now, what social media does the video represent? That was my first question. Yes? Do you remember the social media that we have? Instagram, that's right. Now, what do people do in the video? What are some of the things people were doing? They were posting photos, and in this case, they were posting fake pictures. That's how we call them, fake, when they are false, okay? And the last one, how does it make you feel? I personally feel that I shouldn't trust every picture I see on social media, right? Now that we watch the video and we have some ideas, we can write some of those ideas and continue planning. Let's see the graphic organizer that I created about that planning. Okay, so we're going to see a graphic organizer that I created for you, and this has to do with the Instagram. So here I have Instagram. That was the main idea, right? The main point. And then I wrote first, then, and later. So first, I saw a girl. She woke up, and she wore makeup. That's an idea that I have there that I want to write about. I also probably want to write about the boy who pretended to be exercising. And then there was a girl in an office, and she staged the photograph. Remember, staged the photograph? She put everything in order before she took the picture. And you see CS over there, that's my concluding sentence. I'm already thinking and planning about how I want to conclude my paragraph. And I want to be clear at the end that we shouldn't trust everything we see because it might be just an Insta lie. and that is the title that we're going to give our paragraph, okay? Now, once we have those things, we can start drafting. Let's go in our next slide. We have some sentence frames over there that we can use to write about. So I encourage you, while I read these sentence frames, you can write there in your notebook ideas of your own. I'm going to present you my ideas, but I want you to do your own writing. So Instagram is, how can you complete that? People post. That is the second sentence. The documentary showed. What do you see in the documentary? Then we can write some examples over there. So, for example, I think that is the last sentence, because remember, we have to give our opinion also in terms of the documentary that we saw. Are you ready with your ideas? Do you need a little bit more time? Remember, the idea is that you use these sentence frames to make your own sentences, and then you're going to be able to write your paragraph. So here we are, still a little bit of planning, but also drafting, okay? Now let's see my ideas. I have my ideas here in the next slide. So Instalize, that is the title of the paragraph. Instagram is a social network. That's my first idea there. People post pictures for their friends to see. The documentary showed how people staged their photos. For example, the girl that wore makeup to post a picture after she woke up. I think we shouldn't trust everything we see because it might be just an Insta lie. Now, you see that these are still ideas. I'm still drafting here. So once I put everything together, I might want to change some of the words, okay? I might want to change some of the ideas. But do you notice that we have something missing? We need still to think about the main idea of our paragraph. Let's look at the main idea of our paragraph that I have here. This is the idea that I want to convey. So the documentary showed how people staged their photos and lied about their diet, routines, or friends. That is my main idea. After that, I'm going to give some examples of diet, routines, or friends, and I'm going to finish with my concluding sentence, okay? So now it's time for us to get all that we have been writing about, all those ideas, the main idea, the supporting sentences, and the concluding sentence. We put it all together, and let's see what we get. Are you already doing that? I'm pretty sure you are. But if you haven't had time, I'm going to give you some ideas. And make sure that you listen till the end, because I'm going to leave you with a challenge today. So let's see my paragraph here. Don't worry about the spelling, don't worry about the mistakes, because that is the next step in our writing. So let's see the paragraph that I have already written for you. So I'm not going to read it because it might take a long time, but I want you to look at and identify. You see, the third sentence is my main idea. So it is at the beginning of the paragraph, but not necessarily the first sentence of the paragraph. Then you see the last sentence is my conclusion, and you see in between I included words like later, after that, for example, and that is to give supporting details, right? Okay, now I told you about the mistakes, and that is our next step. It is going to be to edit and to revise what we have done. So I prepared a video where I actually was looking at all the things that we need to do in order to correct this. Let's watch the video and pay close attention to the process of editing and revising. Okay, so the video is about to come. That is how we edit and revise. All right, let's see the video. Okay, so now that we have finished writing the paragraph, we're going to start the revising and editing processes, which means we need to go over the paragraph and see if we have any mistakes. My recommendation is to begin by looking at one thing at a time. Let's begin by looking at spelling. So the first thing I notice is that the word Instagram is misspelled. I need to correct it. If I continue reading, people post pictures for their friends. Friends is misspelled, and I'm going to check all the words that mean friends or that are friends because probably I have problems in all of them. I see the second one, and when I continue, I probably have another one there. Let's see, I see here another group of friends. Okay, I corrected them. And finally, I see the word might, which is misspelled. I'm going to correct it as well. Now, I'm going to look at capitalization. The text, the paragraph, needs to begin with capital letter. So I correct that. And then I'm going to continue looking for periods. I see here another problem with capitalization. And let's see, I see another one here with the word I. All right. Now I'm going to look for punctuation. Remember that we need punctuation after the introductory phrases or the phrases that we saw, like after that, I need a comma. Later, I need a comma. Finally, there is a comma, and I think there is a comma. All right. Now, the verbs in past. The documentary showed. All the verbs need to be in past because we're talking about all the verbs. I just noticed that I have another mistake here. For example, comma. All right. And let's see here that she staged a photo. Very good. Now, I'm going to look at this first sentence and give you a suggestion. Instagram is a social network. People post pictures for friends to see. So this is just an explanation of what Instagram is or what the social network is. So why don't we delete that period and say where people post. That way we have only one complex sentence, which now looks a lot better. And that would be the editing process. All right. It seems that our paragraph is in the can. In the can, that is an idiom I want you to learn today. This is an idiomatic expression that we use when something is ready to be presented to the public. So I say, my paragraph is in the can, it is ready. Do you want to see the final product? Let's look at the final product here. So you see that I even added the indentation to the paragraph because that's very important. And it reads now, Instagram is a social network where people post pictures for their friends to see. The documentary showed how people staged their photos and lied about their diet, routines, or friends. For example, the girl that wore makeup to post a picture after she had woken up. After that, there was a boy who pretended to be exercising. Later, there was the girl that staged a photo of her desk to show that she was organized. Finally, the group of friends who lied about having a good time. I think no matter how good the social media is, we shouldn't trust everything we see because it might just be an Insta lie. Okay? So, as you saw, my posting of the picture at the beginning of the class today had an intention, and it's that we shouldn't trust everything we see in social media. This is very nice to have, but we need to be careful about that. Now, what about seeing our learning for the day? So I'm going to ask you some self-evaluation questions. Let's look at those questions. I have 3 questions for you. Number 1, did I pay attention in class? You can think of thumbs up, thumbs to the middle, or thumbs down. Number 2, did I follow the steps for the writing process or the writing activity? Remember, drafting or planning, drafting, revising, and editing. And finally, did I complete the task? So here is where I give you the challenge. If you weren't able to complete the task because you didn't have enough time, I want you to actually think about that task, complete it, and maybe you can send it to your English teacher and they can help you get better in that case. Now, the learning outcomes of the day. What did we learn today? So let's evaluate what we learned. Was it achieved, in progress, or not achieved? Ideally, you're going to have a happy face celebrating because of the achieved. I identified important details to write a description about a documentary. I ordered events chronologically. I planned my descriptive paragraph about social networks. I drafted my descriptive paragraph. I revised and edited my descriptive paragraph. So once again, if steps or sentences 3, 4, and 5 are not complete and you haven't achieved them, they are still in progress, I dare you, finish that. I challenge you. Finish that and send it to your teacher, okay? So I think we are getting almost to the end of the lesson, but I have 2 more questions for you today, extra questions. Number 1, what was one part in which you had difficulty today? Maybe it was the part of extracting the ideas. It was the part of writing and drafting. Maybe it was the part of actually editing, okay? So we need to think about that, because once we know what parts were difficult for us, we're going to be able to overcome those difficulties. And my second question for you today, what is one thing you would like to put into practice? Maybe you would like to put into practice the different words that we learn to organize chronologically. First, later, after that, finally. Maybe it's going to be about the things you want to, like the different steps for the writing, right? Planning, drafting, then the other things, okay? So we have come to the end of the class. My name is Teacher Jonnathan Elizondo. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.